All right, so we'll move on. Okay, so we've answered that. Now, you've made a decision to apply to graduate school. What do you need to do? All right, as part of getting a strong application, what do you have to do? The number one step is to do your research. Okay, doing your research is the most important aspect of applying to graduate school. And a lot of people don't do that. They reach out, they say, they introduce themselves. We want to apply to graduate school, but we don't know where to start from. Okay, if you tell me you don't know where to start from, I don't have so much time to take you from the ground. If you go to the internet, there's so much info there. You can, start researching on the programs you want to do. Okay, you can start identifying schools that are good in that particular field. Through your research, you know whether those schools offer scholarships. If they don't, you would also know external funding sources. Through your research, you know the requirements that each program needs. And through your research, you would know that you have to reach out to faculty. You can send emails to them. You can also identify students or alumni and then talk to them, right? So the research phase is one of the most important phases in your preparation. If you don't do it right, you'll be stuck somewhere, okay? So you have to take your time, do the research, take several weeks, do the research. If you want, you can search. You don't have to stick with one country. Look at, US, look at Canada, look at UK, look at other European countries, and then settle with the schools you want to apply to, okay? So that is the first step, a very important step. And then you need to gather the material, okay? Gathering your materials is looking out for the requirements of the program. You know the requirements of the program. You know you're supposed to do something in the US, you're supposed to do something that is called WES evaluation, okay? That takes time. So you need to start, you need to start that process as early as possible. You have to find out whether the program you're taking demands you to submit test scores. If you're doing an MBA in the US, there's no way out, okay? You still have to do your GRE. You still have to do your, other test scores, okay? So that is what you have to look out for. Start identifying recommenders, okay? The more recommenders you have, the better. The stronger recommenders you have, the better. Start drafting your SOP. So that's the second phase. You're gathering your materials. So once you get all these, then it becomes easy. The application process, the third part is just to, gather all your requirements and then apply. Okay, so these are the steps that you need to take. Now, why do we need a strong application? You can just, pick any school, or you can just pick any program and apply, but that isn't the idea. The idea is for you to put in a strong application so that you will have your desired program, okay? You apply to, let's say you apply to Harvard, you apply to other schools, okay? But in your mind, you know the program that you would like to attend. And for you to get that program, you need to put in a strong application, okay? So to get your desired program, okay, you don't want to attend your second choice or your third choice. And then the networking potential. The program that you're going into will determine the networking opportunities you have. If you want to have a lot of networks in the public health space, you have to look at the top schools in public health, because those are where all the renowned faculties are, okay? So you have to target that. If you are looking to network in the business field, you have to put in a strong application so that you get a strong business school. If you want to get something in the engineering, you have to know which schools are good in engineering and apply to those, okay? So networking potential. And then 3, obviously, scholarship, okay? Especially for international students. If you get all your admissions and you are not able to get a scholarship, it's going to be very difficult for you. So we need to put in a strong application so that we can at least get scholarship, okay? And what makes a strong candidate, okay? When admission board is reviewing, your package, what makes you stand out? I remember when I was applying for my PhD, I spoke to a lot of faculty members, right? And they shared a lot. They will tell you, this is what we are looking for. We are looking for research. We are looking for someone who has worked in the field. We are looking for someone who has done this. So they will tell you what they are looking out for, okay? And once you can show that you have at least some of these qualities, then your chances become high. All right, so the first thing they are looking for is exceptional grit and resilience. Throughout your academic journey or throughout your career, what challenges have you faced? How have you dealt with them? Have you succeeded in overcoming those challenges? How are you able to persevere in the face of the difficulties? So these are the features they are looking out for, okay? So these are the features they are looking out for. So for me, when I was applying to graduate school, it became easier because I realized I had a lot of challenges, right, throughout my academic journey. So it was easy to tell my story, okay? Your challenge may not necessarily be academics. It may be a societal pressure. It may be, something different that you're handling. All these have to be spelled out or narrated in a way that the admissions board would know that this is somebody that can survive in graduate school, okay? And then you have to get a record of distinction. Record of distinction, that doesn't mean you should have like 98 percentile GRE scores, okay? You can have an average score. You can have some publications, list all your awards and honors, either on your CV or in your statement of purpose. Let them know what you have achieved. Because if you don't tell them, they may not know. If you don't put it on a CV, nobody will know. So don't underestimate any achievement, especially academics. It can be in primary school or it can be in junior high school. You have to let it out, okay? Let them know you're a good student, okay? And then they want somebody who has done some unique projects and volunteerism. Volunteerism or community service is very, very important because the admissions board realized that if they give students the same time and the same resources, most students would do very well in the test scores, okay? However, they want to know what differentiates you from just test scores. And volunteerism and unique projects is one important aspect. Unique project can simply be as running a blog, writing an article on, medicine or any other health-related field or any other business field that you want to go into, right? Setting up a small NGO that is not like really active, but it's on the background. You're doing something, right? So these are the unique projects that schools are looking out for. And volunteerism has there's nothing small about volunteerism. You can work with any organization, any outreach you attend should be added as volunteerism, okay? You are not applying for a job, you're applying to a school. There are jobs that look out for specific features or specific skills on your CV. But graduate school, you have to put everything there, okay? Every certificate that you have should go there. And then leadership potential or experience. Okay. In your line of work, in your academic life, how have you handled leadership? Have you had the opportunity to lead people? Have you had the opportunity to demonstrate that you can be a leader? This is what they are looking for. Okay. So, and then your overall fit for the program. Okay. So if you are not able to convince the admissions review committee that the program you're applying to is what you are really interested in, or the program you're applying to is what they offer, I mean, from the beginning, you'll be out of the game. Okay. So you have to really let them know that you are a good fit. And all these features should come in one way or the other in your statement of purpose or in your recommendation letters. If you discuss it way ahead of time with your recommenders, they will put all these elements, they will ensure that all these elements are in your recommendation letter. And you will also have to ensure that all these elements are in your statement of purpose. Okay. So what are the elements of the application package? I'm sure we all are aware at this stage. So there's a quantitative element, which is a GPA, the test scores, and then language assessment. But language assessment has been waived for majority of the countries. So that shouldn't be a cause for alarm. Test scores, if you're doing a health related program like public health, most schools have waived test scores. Okay. GPA at this time, unless you're still in undergrads, there's nothing you can probably do about your GPA. Okay. Your undergraduate GPA, it's unchangeable now. But if you have a GPA of 3.5, then you are in a very, very, very comfortable lead. Okay. If you have a GPA of 3 and above, that is also great. Okay. There are instances that even people with a GPA as low as 2.5 get very top schools because of other elements in the application. Okay. So the quantitative element, GPA, test scores, and other things. And then there is a qualitative element. So to me, the qualitative element is perhaps one of the key areas you have to look out for. So what are the qualitative areas of your application? The statement of purpose, okay? Your recommendation, your CV or your resume, all right? Other programs will require you to submit what we call writing sample. It's common with PhD applications and other Masters of Public Health programs, and even some business schools. They will require you to write additional sample and then submit essays, answer specific questions that they will ask you in your application. So these are the qualitative elements. Okay, so also extremely crucial. So now we'll look at our second Zoom pool so that at least we all take part in this presentation. Okay, so the second pool is to ask you which element you think makes the best application or makes the strongest application. So you see it on the board. So you have two options. Do you prefer a weak quantitative component and an excellent qualitative component, or an excellent qualitative, a weak quantitative? What do you think? We have 10 more. Mm-hmm. 5 more votes to go. Okay, so all right. So if you read the question correctly, you realize that both options are the same. Okay. So the first option is weak quantitative, excellent qualitative. The second option is excellent qualitative, weak quantitative. So I just swap them. Okay, but it's literally the same. Okay, and both of these is better than having a very, it's better than having a strong quantitative and a weak qualitative. Your case will be dead. Okay, so a very strong qualitative is key in your application. Okay, if I tell you the GRE scores that I had and the schools I got in for my MPH program, you'll be amazed. It wasn't any, there were times that I even contemplated retaking it, okay? But I just said, no, let me just put this application. Let me just make sure the other elements in my application is strong, okay? So there's no single quantitative test score that can guarantee your entry into a top school. You can have a GPA of 4.0. You can have a GRE score of 98 percentile. It won't matter if your other elements are weak. Okay, so it's a blend. Okay, but to me, I'll pick an average GRE score and a very strong recommendation letter anytime, because those ones are very important. So why do schools demand you to write a statement of purpose? A statement of purpose is it's an opportunity for you to experience or share your experiences and your success stories. Also share with the academic board or the review board your academic and professional background. Share your current interests and future career goals. And then it's also a way to test your written communication skills, because graduate school is heavy on writing, okay? So they want to test your written communication skills. And then they will also want to know whether you're suited for that particular program that you're applying to, okay? So these are basically the reasons why you are asked to write an SOP. And the structure that I typically use is an introduction, which is usually like one paragraph, but that introduction shouldn't be too long. And it should be able to capture the attention of the reader. So you put yourself in the shoes of the person reading, and you ask yourself, if I was the one reading this introduction, would I like to go ahead and read the whole thing, or I will just read the introduction? Let me go and see why the person has done in the conclusion area, and then just, because they don't have time to thoroughly read your statement of purpose. They have several hundreds or thousands of applications. So you have to make sure your statement of purpose is standing out. They will remember you when the review process is done. That is the importance of it, okay? The introduction. And then the body is where you start to add meat. So the introduction is giving an idea of what you are likely to talk about. And then you zoom in to the body, where you talk about the background, your drive, okay? The things you've done that you think has prepared you for the program you're applying to, your competencies that you think you'll be bringing to the program. Sometimes people just take what they want to learn from the school. You can also let the school know that you've accumulated a breadth of experience that you think that if you bring it to the school, other students will also benefit from your experience. So you let them know your competencies you're bringing. You let them know your volunteerism that you've engaged in. If there are any gaps, for example, if your GRE score is bad or your GPA is horrible, this is where you have to try and explain what happened, okay? And then your conclusion should also be powerful. Let the program know why you're applying to them. If you've spoken to a particular professor and you think mentioning the professor's name will enhance your chances, then you can chip in the professor's name. But you also have to let them know that even if the professor is not ready to work with you, you are flexible enough to work with other faculty. Because when I was applying to Hopkins, I knew a particular professor I wanted to work with, but I was advised not to put his name there, okay? Because once you put the person's name, and unfortunately the person rejects you, the other faculty members may not really be willing to work with you. So that can be, good and bad, depending on who you've spoken to. And then you also have to let them know your future career goals. What do you want to do afterwards? Okay. There are slight differences if you are really doing a PhD. If you're doing a PhD, then in the body of your statement of purpose, you need to really stress research. You need to stress the research that you've done, assuming that you're coming from graduate school to PhD, or even in your undergraduate training, you did some research. You need to hammer that. Okay. There's no harm if you don't have any research publication and you want to do PhD, but your chances are higher if you have at least one publication. Okay, so research is crucial for a PhD application. And in PhD application, you are not there to tell stories like you do when you're applying for master's programs, because at that time they are expecting you to be beyond a certain level. That is not the time to tell them that you've been disadvantaged for too long. Okay, it's not a time to tell them you grew up in some small village, so they should give you a PhD slot. That will not work. Okay, your stories have taken you far to your master's level. You have to show that you are capable of surviving in a PhD environment. Okay, so the intro is very important. I'm going to share with you two introductory paragraphs to a statement of purpose. Okay, and then you can see how at least those introductions have various elements of what we spoke about: resilience, academic excellence, leadership potential, volunteerism, and fit for the program. Okay, so your introduction should have at least two of these elements, so that when a person is reading, the person knows that yes, this is the kind of student we want to deal with. Now, I'm just giving you a backstory. Okay, so the introduction for this particular person, the person is a Muslim. She's the only female in the family. In a society where she grew, there was a lot of societal pressure. If you grew up in a Muslim community, for women or for females, there's pressure. There's always that pressure to get married as early as possible. Okay, and then she was good in school. Okay, and then she expressed interest in helping others. So this was her story. Okay, so how can you put these elements into a strong introduction? Okay, when I saw the draft, she had all the elements in the draft, but the arrangement was not good. The structure was not cooking enough. Okay, so if you think about it, there are various ways you can start, but usually you would want to start in a way that the person reading it will say, wow, this is the kind of student we want, or this is the person that we think will bring diversity to our program. Okay, so this is an intro that we finally settled on. You can take some few minutes, or I can just read it loud for you. Okay, And then you identify that all the ideas, all the elements we spoke about, it's clearly in this, all right? So the intro goes, the idea of getting a good education as a girl growing up in a mostly patriarchal minority Muslim society in Ghana was unthinkable. My resolve to success, on the other hand, propelled me from being an underage married girl with no formal education to one of the top students in my class at every level. Due to the fact that I had early academic success as a girl, my parents were more willing to continue to support my aspirations. Being one of the first female science students from a minority Muslim community has motivated me to advance the health of women and children in minority and marginalized communities. Okay, so once the person reads this, the person knows you are going through some challenges, the odds are against you, you know, your resolve has helped you reach a certain level and you want to help others. Okay, so once they read this, they know that at least you have these elements. This is another introduction. Okay, this was actually the introduction I used for my master's degree application. Okay, I'm the last of 8 kids. I grew up in Ghana in a town that is relatively underprivileged. Okay, when you start school from where I started, you don't even have the right to think about going to medical school. Okay, but it happened. Okay, and you experience, you know, the relative lack of healthcare where you grew up. So you are, you know, you are interested in helping out and all that. So that is how to tell the story. Okay, you can have these stories, but if you are not able to put them together to make a very nice narrative, a very hook narrative, you may not get the punch that you need. Okay, so if you're digesting your intro, you need to tell a story. It has to be like a clear story that you're telling people. So the elements of the statement of purpose that I shared with you, we realized that the person was in a disadvantaged environment. She faced challenges, that is a grit and resilience, yet succeeded. She had scholastic achievements. She had real passion for public health because she wants to help women and children. So that defines the fit for the program. Okay, so these are the elements in your introduction that you need to talk about. And then you can also add, you know, in the body of your statement of purpose, you would want to tell people why you think you have prepared yourself for a certain level of skill. So this was one of the paragraphs in my PhD application, right? So my desire to become a leading independent investigator is why I enrolled in an MPH MBA program. My experience was transformational. I spent 2 years intentionally building strong fundamental skills and epidemiological methods and biostatistics needed to conduct research. So the person knows that, okay, when you started your master's, you were preparing for a PhD. So you were taking courses that are relevant to the PhD program that you're applying to. Okay, so it helps them to, you know, put in perspective that this is the kind of person that we want to work with. Now let's go to recommendation. I just want to give out a lot of time for Q&A. Recommendation is straightforward. Okay, most times you may not be able to see what the content of your recommendation. There are several other instances too. You'll be asked to draft your recommendation. So if you're asked to draft your recommendation, it's a plus for you. You need to know how to draft these recommendations or get people to help you draft these recommendations. So number one catch, those who know you well is the best people to go to. Okay, they can know you well in terms of time or in terms of the projects that they've worked with you. So stick with those who know you very well, who have worked with you. Okay. When I was applying my PhD, I approached a very renowned professor at Hopkins. Okay. He's very renowned. Everybody knows him. Okay. I'm sure that if he's willing to write you a recommendation letter, once your recommendation letter is in, unless your other part is very bad, you by all means get him. I went to see him. I mean, like I have not worked with him for a long time. I have not worked with him at all. We met in a couple of conferences, right? So I decided to go and see him to discuss with him my future intentions, and then to ask for a recommendation letter, right? And then, he told me that he thinks that he may not be the best person to write me a recommendation letter. But if I don't find anybody, I should come back. He will write it for me. Okay. So once you hear something like this, then you know that, well, this person is probably not the best person to give you a very strong recommendation letter. He may be well known, but he may not be in a position to actually write you the very strong recommendation letter that you need, especially if he's not asking you to draft it for him. If he's going to do it himself, then it's going to be a challenge. So I advised myself, and then I went out and looked out for people that I actually connected with. And then you have to also look at whether the person is willing to write a recommendation letter. And sometimes you can find out in the early phases of your interaction. Okay. And then 3, you have to find recommendation letters from those in the field. Okay. From those in the field. If you're applying for an MPH or Masters of Public Health, at least one of your recommenders should have a degree in MPH or a PhD in public health or something. It really helps. Okay. You can't say you're applying to an MPH and all your recommenders are say internal medicine lecturers or surgeons or people that have absolutely no idea what public health is. Okay, so you need at least one in the field. And then you take strong over title, as I initially stated. The strong recommendation is better than a very big or a very known person in the field who is likely to write you a weak recommendation. And then you need a backup. If the admission process says you need 3 recommendation letters, make sure you have more than 3. At least get 4, so that if one bails out on you the last minute, you can use the other. So always get a backup. Okay. So this is a response I had when I reached out to one of the professors at Hopkins. I wanted to do my PhD. I sent him an email with my CV and everything, and I asked for his opinion or his input. And he looked at materials and he said it sounds like a strong candidate for a PhD in epidemiology or global disease epidemiology and control, right? And then he said, me working in COVID-19 with the Baltimore City is the kind of thing they like to see. Okay, that someone is working public health and thinks PhD is good for them. And he said, if you can, at that time I didn't have any publications, right? So he said, if you can ramp up publications, that will matter too. And it will be good to publish on COVID as well as HIV. But as I said, I do think you will be highly competitive, right? So he's telling me all the elements I need, okay, in order to put my best foot forward. So before I applied, I made sure that I had one publication on COVID, okay? And guess what? When I was going for my PhD interview, he was one of the people on the panel. Okay. So it was more like a conversation. It was more like, what do you want to do? We've spoken about this already and things like that. So it became easier. Okay. So that is one of the reasons why you should reach out to professors, especially in a school that you are already doing your master's. Reach out to them, let them know from the beginning. If you start your term from first term, start sending out emails to people. Let them know that, oh, you have an interest in doing a PhD, and they will guide you. Okay. And so I told you guys that I applied to one school in Canada and one school in the US. And when after my recommender submitted his recommendation letters, I asked for a copy. And this was his closing remark. Okay, so if someone writes you this, it means that they know you can survive. It means that they know you are an asset. All right, so this was his concluding paragraph. This was like 2 pages. So this is the last paragraph of a 2-page recommendation, right? He says, I know that you will be reading many letters of recommendation and statements as part of this admission season, but I will just ask that you look closely at his application and you will see what I see. Someone who has demonstrated his willingness and capacity to serve those most marginalized and poised to be a leader in the field. I also want to note that Banda is only applying to programs at the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health because he is committed to this institution. While I think this is a risky strategy, I hope that the people reading this see that this is someone with a very bright future and would serve the reputation of this institution well. All said, I really hope that he's admitted to the doctoral program and personally hope to have the pleasure of collaborating with him during his studies and beyond. Okay, so if you are an admissions review committee member and you read this recommendation, it's obvious that the person writing this recommendation wrote it willingly. He knew the person that he's talking about, and he's more than willing to work with the person. Okay, even after all this, this recommender's name was never mentioned in my statement of purpose. Okay, I left it very open. So that is the kind of thing we want to look at. And then the other qualitative element is your resume. Okay, the other qualitative element is your CV. What are the elements of your CV? Your heading is very important. Okay, your professional summary, always get a summary. Educational background, work experience, volunteer experience. I like to separate them. Awards, honors, certificates, research experience, professional associations, and skills. So these are the basic or the must-have elements of your CV. Okay, I don't add, names of references on my CV. If they need a reference, they will ask you to provide it. Okay, so these are the main headings of your CV. Okay, so we'll do our last poll. We'll do our last poll, which is about what elements should be on your CV. Okay, so I'll share it quickly. Which of the following should be added on your resume? Date of birth, nationality, house number, 2-hour conference, none or. Which one do you think should be added on your CV? Okay, we have 20. Okay, we have 12 more. Okay, 8 more. People are not voting. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll now. Okay, and I'll share the results with you guys. So 8% think your date of birth should be on your CV or resume. It's a bad idea. Okay. Okay. Nobody wants to know your age. Okay. So leave your date of birth out of your CV. Leave your nationality out of your CV unless it is specifically required or specifically asked. Okay. But if you're submitting a CV for a corporate institution or for a graduate school application, you don't need to bring your nationality. Okay. House number, no, unfortunately not. Okay. Nobody's going to come to your house. Okay. So there is no need to add house numbers on your CV. 2-hour conference, definitely for graduate school application, even if it's 1-hour conference, you have to add it. Every little thing matters. So on this particular option, I would only add a 2-hour conference to my CV, even if it's an hour conference or 30 minutes. I'll add it to conferences and events. Okay. So don't underestimate the impact of the things you've done, whether volunteerism or attending conferences or attending seminars or meetings or something that is closely related to the field you're applying to. Make sure to add all on your CV. Okay. All right. So this is how CVs are scored. Okay. So when you make your CV ready, you want to look at the impact. What impact is your CV having? How have you presented your CV? Okay. And the competencies that you've demonstrated in your CV. Okay. So this assessment of my CV was done 4 years ago. I was then in my master's program. So this was the CV I submitted. But this, before I got this good job, I started from here, okay? And I build it up gradually, and then on track, and I build it up gradually, and then good job, okay? It takes time to master. But you know, CVs that you're applying for job, you're using to apply for job are usually more rigorous than graduate school. Because graduate school can just put everything on your CV, but if you're applying for a particular job, it has to be tailored to the job that you're applying into. All right. So this is a typical example of how the contact section will be like. Your name, your city and country is enough. So this one can be Accra, Ghana, or Nigeria. You don't have to specifically mention your district or your house or room number, okay? And then your number should be on it. If you have any website, a link should be on it. Your email should be on it. Your LinkedIn link, very, very crucial, should be on your CV, okay? You have to submit a CV that has a functioning LinkedIn link on it. Very, very crucial, okay? And then your professional profile should be a summary of what you expect to your impact. Okay, it shouldn't be too long. I'll stick with like 3 sentences, right? Maximum 4 short sentences. So this is the profile that I used for my PhD application. So this comes after your contact, and then the main aspect start following: education. Okay, you arrange it well, make sure it's clean, people can see. Okay, so you talk about your education. Usually the school comes first, and then the degree that you have, and then the year. Okay, what stood out, one important thing that stood out in your degree. So Women's School of Public Health, you had a Master of Public Health, EP and Biostatistics. That was a concentration. It's very important. And then if you had a certificate, you can add it, right? Now, if you're describing your roles you played in your CV, sometimes I read CVs and it's funny. When I look at my very old CV, I was like, wow, things have changed, right? Because those times I used to list my functions. Okay, so house officer, 37 military hospital. Number one, see patient. Number two, take samples to the lab. Number three, so that kind of thing. You're just listing your functions. Those are not action oriented. Okay, the content of your CV should be action oriented, so that people will see that you're actually working, okay, or you're actually making a change. Okay, it shouldn't be more than 4 bullet points or 4 short sentences. I see people like putting like 8 bullets, 9 bullets. Just too much. Summarize your achievements in any particular role that you played into 3 or 4 bullet points. Okay, and the words that people would like to see are the action-oriented words, and these are some of the action-oriented words in my CV. Okay, develop, created, prepared, presented, built, executed, managed, planned, conducted, collaborated, revamped. Okay, so this should be the beginning of your bullet point. What did you do in this role? You developed a protocol, you executed a plan, you managed people, you collaborated with colleagues, you revamped, a certain process, you conducted, some form of research or some form of, event, you built something. Okay, so these are the action-oriented phrases or verbs that should be in your CV. Stop describing the work that you do. Okay, if you have estimates, you can put estimates. Maybe when you took charge of the facility, 20 on average every month, you're having 50 patients. Now that you took over, the growth has gone to maybe 80 patients a month. Use that number and put it in your CV. Let them know the impact that you've had. Okay, so this is how your action-oriented CVs should be delivered, right? Designed. Okay, so all these are good options to use. There are several action-oriented